excited to hand it over to Austin. Austin and I have known each other for many years, more years than I'll say out loud.
Like, don't do
Uh,
that. Don't do that. Yeah.
we met in seminary just moons ago, and it's been fun to watch different ministries evolve and what God has done. But Austin is an executive coach with over 15 years of experience in ministry, specifically next gen ministry as well. He does coaching and consulting. He has a master's degree in transformational leadership and loves working with individuals and teams. I'm just really excited that he's with us today to share his insight on vision and how do we discern what the next right thing is for our ministries. So, Austin, I'm going to hand it over to
Ah,
you. Thank you so much for being here.
this will be fun. I'm I'm pretty pumped to walk through some of our favorite stuff, and even in invitations, people are like joining in. No judgment one way or another. Would love for you to be camera on so that we can get interactive here in a little bit. I'm even going to share some slides in a second. But as I was thinking about today, it reminded me of a mission trip experience that I had with an intern who I do love, regardless of how this story goes. When I was a youth pastor, we spent several summers partnering with the same churches, the same organizations, even staying in the same elementary school in the lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans. And it was really fun to get to be a part of what God was doing there. And it became this, like, you know how it goes, formative place for our students. And maybe the fourth year it was, had this intern, and we will call him James. And I'm going to do my best to call him James and not call him his actual name. And I got a text from him in the middle of day 3 that said, Austin, I broke a policy and I need to confess something. Can we find somewhere to talk one-on-one? And I texted back and said, absolutely, bud, we'll find some time. And inside, as you could imagine, I began to spiral. Who am I going to have to call? Who do I have to send home? What parents do I need to make things right with? So later that day, all the students get back from their little mission sites. They get back to this elementary school and pretend to cool off in this school that their air conditioning is doing its very best in July in New Orleans. And James texts me and he says, hey, I'm out in the parking lot. Can we talk? And I was like, all right. So I walk up and he's standing in between two 15-passenger vans, just like shoulders down and weeping. And I said, hey, buddy, what's wrong? And he said, Austin, I'm so sorry. Like, I know rules are there for a reason and policies are important. And you're probably gonna have to send me home and I'm gonna pay for the flight. I know I did the wrong thing. I just couldn't keep it quiet anymore. And so I'm about to pass out. My blood is pumping so fast. And I was like, okay, man, we're gonna figure this out. Just tell me what happened. And he swings his backpack around and reaches in and pulls out the biggest pocket knife I have ever seen in my entire life. And, like, listen, grew up in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mississippi. Like, I've seen knives. This was a small sword that he had. And he goes, I just realized on the drive that I had it in my bag and I didn't know what to do. And I thought it would be okay, but the Holy Spirit kept nudging me like, oh, you should tell Austin. You should tell Austin. So I'm so sorry. And it's like, hey, man, if we're being honest, of all the policies that I thought you were texting me about, like, we're gonna be fine. Can I ask you a question? And he's like, yeah. I was like, why is the knife open? And he starts like crying again. He's like, I don't know how to close it. And I was like, buddy, are you not like worried about cutting yourself? And he holds up his hand and he has a gash that is like started to scab over. And he was like, I was just trying to get a Gatorade out of my backpack yesterday. And so it's like, oh, okay, we need to get you some like medicine for that as well. Uh, and then my energy shifted a little bit. I was like, hey, James, was the knife in your backpack 2 days ago when over and over and over you threw your backpack at my face and said, think fast? And he's like, yes. So, I'm really sorry for that too. And like I said, I love James. I don't know that I would have loved James had he stabbed me through the hand in New Orleans, but I love him. Uh, but here's what that came to mind as I was looking through notes and stuff. We're about to talk about vision. Is um, I think when we are leading something, we know what it's like to realize there's something going on that we want to change, Like there's something, there's a problem that we want to solve, a complaint we have, or even just this like uneasy feeling of I really wish something was better or different or growing or clear. Uh, and then like wake up in the middle of the night, freak out about it, not really know what to do about it. And then when we're in leadership positions, you kind of know you want to do something, but you can be so overwhelmed by day-to-day activities and the burden of leadership that you never actually take action. And then just like sweet old James, you start to feel guilty about it and you start to feel bad that you should be doing something different. So as an executive coach at our coaching firm Novus Global, we have a core belief that every single leader is drastically underestimating what they're capable of. And I believe that a clear vision is a key to leading effectively and efficiently over time. And so, like I've worked with pastors and nonprofit leaders ranging from some of the biggest churches in the Western Hemisphere to bivocational support-based collegiate missionaries and like school teachers internationally. And they've gotten to see their ministries strengthen, the cultures of their ministries grow, peace of mind and their personal health grow. And all of it starts with some of the building blocks that we're about to lean into today. And so for the next 20-25 minutes, we're going to work with a few of our tools to help you get clear on what you're doing, to help navigate some of those feelings of like, I wish this wasn't this way, and hopefully to get clear on what you're up to in your ministry over the next 6 to 9 months, and maybe even how you're getting in your own way. And all of it, I'm going to share my screen. All of it centers around a particular word that we see used in scripture, we hear used in leadership talks, and the word is vision. And so I'm curious, I can see a few of everybody's faces, but before I throw up our definition for vision, what comes to mind when you hear that word vision?
For
Plan
me,
for the
I think I hear Tagger's voice saying, any ministry without a vision is an obligation. And I probably murdered that quote, but he says something along those lines. Any ministry without a vision is an obligation, I
I
think is
love
how it
that.
goes. Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Paula, I think I saw you come off mute.
plan for the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? So in our work, we have a definition that we use for vision. We say vision is a picture of the future that incites passion. A picture of the future that incites passion. So as you hear that, what do you notice? What stands out?
I think the passion part, because I feel like um it means a willingness to pursue it when you have a passion versus an
Yeah.
obligation to pursue it.
Yeah, I love that.
I like the
What else?
clarity that comes with the picture, that there's, when you think of a picture, you can think of details, you can think of this like reality instead of
Yeah,
a vague kind of feeling of what we want. It's a clear picture.
yeah. Any other notices?
I'm just jumping in here. Sorry, I'm
Hey,
late to the
Jesse.
table, but yeah, for me, I like that. It's and not a picture of the strategy, a picture of the current the assets we have or whatever else is in our ministry,
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, but the future, which can be something that nobody actually sees yet. That we're not
Yeah.
there. Maybe we'll never get there, but it drives us towards it.
Yeah. One of
Imaginary in some sense.
Yeah, exactly. One of my favorite pieces this of like walking through this with church leaders and people of faith. Can you see my cursor when I hover it over? No? Okay. I'm hovering over the word passion. Uh that word passion is like to suffer for. And so a picture of the future that incites passion, sometimes the way that I define that is like a picture of the future that is worth the pain of transformation. Like it is worth, like, I want this thing, Jesse, your point, this like future that isn't real yet. I want it to be real. And so I am willing to do the work and to become the person that I need to be to fill in the gaps and to create that destination for us. And so there's an interesting thing that happens when we think of, and we'll get there, when we think of a vision and where we want to go. And maybe even right now, as you're thinking about your ministry or your personal life, you're like, oh, where would I, like, if I could wave a magic wand, where would I want to be by the end of this school year? Whether that's attendance, number of volunteers, something in your personal life. When we start to paint that picture, an interesting thing happens. Our brain begins to give us stories of why it will or won't work. Our brain begins to tell us, you could never have that many volunteers. We could never have the budget to do this event. We could never have that many groups. And so one of the tools that I love using is this tool called the intuitive fence. And here's what the intuitive fence is. Our brain is really, really good at doing the things that God designed it to do. One of those things is to keep us alive. And so what our brain does is it takes data and assumptions and stories, and it forms this fence that tells us what we are capable of doing. And anything inside the fence, easy to do. Anything outside the fence, our brain tells us is impossible. The funny thing is, the intuitive fence is at best made up. And here's how it plays out. Let's say I have a vision. I'll use one of mine as an example. I have a vision for creating incredible experiences for my kids. I mentioned earlier in the call, I've got two daughters. One has a neurological disability. The other has 87 layers of neurospiciness. And I love them so much. And I have a vision for who I want to be as their dad and how I want to create incredible experiences for them. And so what would be most possible in my vision would be being present at home. That's like an expectation. Like when it's the end of the day, I can be physically present with my kids. My youngest one still likes to wrestle. My oldest one doesn't hate being in the same room as me yet. And so like that is most possible. And then as we start moving outside towards the intuitive fence, my brain starts telling me things are less possible. So at this point, I would say, if I wanted to, we live in Minnesota now, and our favorite place on earth is the North Shore of Lake Superior. It is a gem. It is beautiful, and my family loves it. And so something less possible would be like, oh, what if we did a cabin getaway sometime in the winter where we just rented an Airbnb or something for a few nights? That feels less possible because of how we budget our finances, and we would have to like change a few things. It feels less possible because I don't want to drive all the way up there in winter. Like it's within the realm of possible, but it would stretch me a little bit. And then as we keep moving, we get outside the fence. And so for me, what would be outside the fence for my family would be saying, what if we went to Disney World next fall? My girls are still in the age where like our family is essentially the target market of Disney World. And it like, to me, it would be so much fun. We've gone one time before, and the way they cared for our special needs daughter was just like, oh, this is such a great experience. I want to do that again. Will be awesome. And in my mind, that feels impossible. And so when you get to the outside of the intuitive fence, you even notice somatic markers where it's like, if I really sat and thought about how fun it would be to do that, my heart rate increases a little bit. I might get some like goosebumps. That'd be really fun. And the idea of like, oh my goodness, how would we make that happen? I don't think that's possible. And you start to notice your physical response to this. And as we keep pushing out into what our brain tells us is actually impossible, we say way outside the fence. And for our family, one thing we noticed when we moved to Minnesota is this is not true, but it feels like every single person has some cabin that their great 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 grandpa bought for like 4 crayons and a high five. And now it's their family cabin worth $1 billion. I know that's not true. That's how it feels. But as my wife and I have been talking, it's like, oh my goodness, it would be literally impossible. But what a gift to be able to tell our kids, like, we've purchased this family legacy space that we can create memories over generations. That can be our space, no matter where anybody lives. That could be safe. That is like thrilling and exciting for me, and I don't know how to make that a reality. That is so far outside my intuitive fence. And maybe it's not. And so what you begin to notice when you pay attention to what your brain tells you isn't possible is the intuitive fence moves. And we've seen this when you're in 8th grade and your teacher's like, you have to do a 500-word essay on this thing, and your brain's like, no one knows 500 words. I can't do that. And then you get to be a senior in high school and your teacher's like, hey, this needs to be 1,000 words. And you're like, oh, thank goodness it's not 10 pages. Like I can do that. And so the more that you explore what you're capable of, the intuitive fence begins to reset. And then what's funny is what used to feel like that dot right outside the fence feels like just another Tuesday once you've expanded and explored what you're actually capable of. And so as we start wrestling with this idea of vision, here's what I'm going to invite you to do. I'm going to put on some music and I'm going to invite you to think through maybe like 2 personal and 2 professional just bullet points to think through. Maybe it's number of volunteers or number of groups. Maybe it's something with friends or family members. But by the end of the school year, in that lane, what would be the expectation? And so expectation is like, you don't have to do anything and it is going to become a reality. And then under inside the fence, that's the one where it's like, we would have to change some things, but it would be really fun to see 3 more small group leaders recruited by the end of the school year. And then outside the fence, what would your vision be for what you would want to be true by the end of the school year? And you don't really know how that would be possible. We're going to take like 5 minutes. I'm going to put some lo-fi music on. I'll check in with chat or if anybody has any questions, but if you had a magic wand, couple personal, couple professional, how or what would be true by the end of the school year? And I don't really know how loud this music is or is not. a couple more minutes. We are doing great on time. And so who would like a little bit more time to keep working? Show of hands, anybody would like a couple more minutes? Okay. Let's unpack some of this. I'd love to hear anybody that would want to share some of their like outside the fence vision that they came up with.
Okay, I can go.
Great.
My history is that I'm leaving a church I've been at for 25 years and going to a new church.
Mm,
This new church, currently they hold all their kids programming in like the dining hall, I guess you'd call it. And they just set up a bunch of folding chairs. So you've got kids kindergarten through 12th grade sitting in folding chairs.
mhm.
And it's been my experience at the old church, we had like a rec room with couches and beanbags. And it's been my experience that kids just absorb and learn and participate way better when they're in comfortable seating. So what I would like to do at this new church is to, and the space exists, it would be a remodel and gut a couple rooms and make a big rec room area because
Yeah.
I feel like kids learn better in those types of spaces versus the folding chair setup they have now. So
Yeah.
yeah, so the inside the box would be just take their conference room, which is basically a storage room now, and make that a hangout area. The outside the fence would be knock down the walls of the unused rooms next to that and make it a like a really big space. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. When just like a follow-up question with the outside the fence one, um, what piece of that makes it to where it feels outside of the fence?
yeah, so that they run a program called Celebrate Recovery. It's for people that are going through
Yeah.
addiction recovery. And those rooms are used once a week for those people. They have their breakout groups in those rooms. So those rooms sit there the rest of the week. So it would be
Mhm.
figuring out a place to for those people to move to and not like stepping on that program's toes and
Yeah.
making an enemy by taking over their space, but the kids programming, it'd be used Sunday morning, Sunday night. It would be we'd utilize the space better in my opinion, but that's looking
Yeah.
through youth ministries goggles and not Celebrate Recovery's goggles. So
Yeah, that's fair. Thank you. Who else? Who wants to share one of the things they came up with?
I could shoot.
Let's go, Jesse. What do we got?
So this is kind of outlandish,
Maybe.
don't go for 10 more, go for 100 more, right? But anyway, dreamed a vision to engage a certain number of other congregations that we aren't currently connected with from multiple, at least full communion partner denominations to start with, right? In co-promoting attendance of our youth programs.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'll immediately, I'm sure all of us are like, no, that won't work,
Maybe.
But you know, and I kind of had them the inside outside switched around at first, but so to clarify, inside means like what makes this seem feasible?
So inside, and I can pretend that I'm good enough at slides to get there, but inside is like let this one less possible. So anything inside the fence you think you can do, but it's going to be a challenge. And when it gets outside the fence, that's when your brain says like that can't happen.
Cool. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
So inside is just kind of, I mean, do the best marketing strategies and whatnot.
Yeah.
We know how. I keep putting it out there, but primarily, I think trust the Holy Spirit. Tell the truth. Invite people. Tell them what it is. Bust the myths of what this really is and isn't.
Yeah.
And trust that truth will spread and people will co-promote that, seeing that it builds up their own congregation.
Yeah.
And to include more youth and families in the work of the wider church. Then outside the fence, well, among other things, what makes it seem impossible, that relationships take a lot of time, and that's a lot of individuals and relationships for any one full-time person that we don't have to maintain and have coffee with or whatever else as it is. But also, our outreach efforts to current ministry partners often just feel like they're really dismissed.
Sure.
Or other community organizations like, oh, that's just it's just a flip, shallow youth program type of thing, and but we have sports to worry about. Thank you very much, or whatever else it is, the usual, or our own program that's sort of similar, I get, but and so old stereotypes come and make that impossible. The limitations of time
Yeah.
and the challenge of then beginning to try to make that fresh invitation to congregations and communities that in addition to those stereotypes maybe have no idea what the ministry is to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's really defeating to think of it that way, but
Maybe. Huh.
maybe, yeah.
Anybody else want to share one? Sandy or Heather, either of y'all have one you'd like to share? Oh, I saw the smile, Sandy. I'll you have your name right there under the box.
One of them that I put, and we're working on this, is gathering up enough youth to actually be the leaders in worship. They'll do the whole service. So it's something in progress, and we're trying to do at least one a year, but the goal is 2 a year. So that to me is kind of the thing that's lurking out there with the thoughts of impossibility, but it is possible. It's just working through all the logistics and getting all the people in place for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you in? You are more than welcome to say no. Are you up for using that as an example for the next tool that I wanted to show?
Sure.
You can top out at any point. So when we create visions and ideas and goals, the next tool I use the funnel of specificity literally every day. And here's how this funnel works. The idea is at the top of the funnel is vague. Vague is not bad. Vague is not wrong. Vague is not like not good enough. Vague can be wildly resourceful. I mentioned that I live in Minnesota. I moved from Arkansas. And so every Christmas morning, our routine is our little family of 4. We have our Christmas together. And then we load up into the car and we drive 13 and a half hours to my parents' house. And I love it and hate it at the same time. Mostly love it. But going south is incredibly vague. If I leave our house and say we just go south, that's not as helpful, but it also makes sure that I don't end up in like New Hampshire or Washington State or Nova Scotia. But also if I go south, I could end up in Brazil. You would think hopefully I wouldn't, but I could. And so what we want to do anytime we're trying to get somewhere, we're trying to close the gap on vision. The more specific that we can get with where we want to go, the more clear the strategy to get there, the more clear the mindset issues that we have, the different requests we could make. And so when I leave our house, we go south, and eventually I put my parents' address into our GPS, our maps. And then it tells me down to the foot, like, where am I going to go? How am I going to turn? Oh, there's a problem. Here's how to get around it. And so with any of these ideas that we have of where we want to create, one of the things we want to do, and want to invite you to, is pull it down the funnel. And so, Sandy, if we toy with yours, you said wanted to get some more students to staff. I heard like a Sunday worship service.
Correct, yes. So we have
Okay.
2 worship services, so they would do both.
Okay, so 2 services in one morning.
Mhm.
Let's get more specific on more. When you say more students, how many students would that be?
Oh, I think a number 10 would be good.
Okay, so let's test that. Does that mean 9? You wouldn't have enough to do it the way you wanted to?
No, I think when I'm thinking, you'd have somebody do the sermon, you'd have your communion assistants, you'd have your ushers, your acolyte, crucifer. And we hold a more liturgical, traditional type worship. And then, so the music part is something too. We don't have a whole lot of students in our group right now that are
Mhm.
musicians in that sense. So I think 9 to 10,
Okay.
8 even.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So let's test this a little bit, because this is I make up, or I imagine this would be resourceful. Is 8 the minimum and 10 would be ideal?
10 or more would be ideal. More
Okay.
is awesome.
Okay. So if you had 15 because of this magic wand that you have, you'd be able to figure out
Oh yeah.
something. Okay. And then you mentioned not a lot of musicians in that sense. Um, are there any students that are able currently to fill the musical roles?
Some who have graduated that are in local colleges could come back to help us. But we do have, I'm working with the worship and music committee. So as
Okay.
far as that part, we're going to be flexible for this one
Great.
service. We're just hoping the energy will be there so that they'll be willing to do 2 a year rather than just 1 a year. We've already got it
So
on the calendar.
yeah, what do you mean by energy? What would the energy be if everything went perfectly?
The oh, I guess just the positive leadership of it, the kids stepping up to be leaders, the congregation being excited about it, uh, and supportive.
Yeah,
And we're getting that, but it's
sure.
just I think just for me being somebody that's such a planner, and the not knowing exactly what to do, so I'm relying on so many people to teach me how to pull this through.
Yeah. Um, okay, so to pull the curtain back on how my brain's processing the funnel, we went from more students to at least 8 students.
Mhm.
Um, 8 students that don't need to be musically inclined. 8 students that have positive impact in leadership. By when would you want commitments or agreements from these 8 students?
Oh, well, our schedule is to serve on January 25th, so
Okay.
early January, probably right after the new year.
Okay. Early January. So right after the new year. Let's get specific, even if you don't commit to this timeline. what date would you want to have all of these names locked in by?
Let me look at my calendar. I would say by the 11th.
Okay. So at least 8 students committed to Sunday worship, both services, by, you said January what? 11th?
11.
By January 11th. And so now we've gone from, I need more students sometime, at least, and you may have had all of this already processed in your mind, but for the sake of, here's how the tool works. Okay, 8 students by January 11th. And then if as the planner and strategist that you're saying you are, I would imagine that helps bring some handles like, oh, okay, 8. First student's probably this person. Second student, I need to ask this person. The more specific we can get, and this is going to apply to all of these, the easier the strategy becomes and the less overwhelming it can be. A lot of times when vision creates overwhelm, it is because we are not specific on where we're going and we're not honest about where we are. And so this happens when it's like we can inflate reality, where you go out with some friends, you're like, I've had a great quarter, dinner's on me, because you think it's great. And then you wake up the next morning and you check your bank account, you're like, dinner should not have been on me. Waters should not have been on me. That it's because we're not connected to our current reality. And so the more specific we can get with vision, the more specific we can get with current reality, the more clear the path in between the two are. Okay, so with that, I'm going to save 10-ish minutes towards the end. I want to offer 2 reflection questions for everyone. And then I've got a resource that I want to offer should you choose to engage with it. But the first question is this: when you think about your vision, the little baby miniature or first draft vision, how might you get in your own way of pursuing this? And I'm not going to go around the horn and ask for volunteers to be like, here's how I get in my way. Although that is very much present in the coaching space. But for you, it might be, oh, I'll lose sight, or I only have 5 hours a week for the ministry, so I won't have time, or I'll be afraid to make a request. But looking internally, how might you get in your own way? And then the second question is this: what nuclear step? We talk a lot in our work about nuclear action, something that's small, but has the potential to have a big impact. What nuclear step would you be committed to making in the next 7 days? In fact, I'll even, because I want to go to the next slide as well, I'll drop a screenshot of this into the chat for us. Oh, I'm unable to send the files. So I will, how might you get in your own way? There. I'm going to leave time for questions and dialogue and even just talking shop at the end. But one of the most common questions that I get when I'm getting to work with teams of ministry leaders is, Austin, do you work with church leaders like this? And the answer is yes. We work with leaders across all different sectors to get really clear on their vision. And we work with them on their mindsets and strategies to help them go beyond high performance into what we call meta performance. And so as part of being here, whether you're like the group of us that's live or people from the cohort that watch after, or anybody that's watching this recording, I checked with Rebecca and wanted to make an offer just as a way to invest in the ministries that you all are leading and serving. So I'd love to give you a free 45-minute vision call with one of our coaches. Now, these can be some of the most transformative conversations that you get to have. And so whether or not you have the resource to like actually hire a coach, this call is absolutely free and just a gift. You'll get connected with either me, or we've got like 70 to 80 coaches, and they are the best in the world at what they do. And so you'll get some time scheduled. They'll prep you for how to show up and what to think through and what to process through. And then they'll help you put some more flesh and some more strategy onto this vision that you've started, or if something else percolates as time goes on. And then if you do want to know about working with one of our coaches, they would be happy to have that conversation. That's not one that I want to have here. A lot of them are current or former ministry leaders. And so for a lot of us, we have a very high priority on serving leaders that have overt kingdom impact and holding space for those conversations. And YMC has help and development like levers and opportunities, as I assume a lot of you already know, but we just have a conviction that every leader needs someone helping them in development. Every human is getting in their own way, one way or another, and doctors don't do surgery on themselves. So even as a coach, I have a coach. My meeting with my coach is in 23 minutes. And I am a little terrified of what I'm walking into, because he's a really good coach and I have gaps and I'm getting in my own way. So here's what you need to do. If that's something that you're interested in, if you just scan this QR code, it gives a quick form to fill out. And if you're watching this recording later and you try and scan this code and it doesn't work, just email me directly, austinwalker@novus.global. But a church planner that I got to work with said I didn't really think that I had time to give for this. But really it wasn't giving my time away. It was more like investing in the future of my ministry. And I can't imagine not regularly doing this with the more I lead. And so my invitation to you would just be to imagine a day where you're clear on the picture of what God's called you to do in your ministry. Imagine a day where a new family asks how they can make a difference, and you're able to paint a really clear picture of where things are headed and what they get to help create. Imagine a day where instead of waking up, and I am very connected to what this experience is like, waking up in the middle of the night with just the list of things that you need to do. Like imagine that not happening, and instead having a clear pathway of how you're creating this kingdom impact for the families of your church. Whether you're leading a team of full-time pastors, or you've been doing ministry for decades, or you just got your first volunteer kidsman director role, our team would really love to partner with you to create some clear vision for where you're headed. So would love to follow up after. We've got 10 minutes. How can we make the most of it? That's all that I have. I'd love to answer any questions that come up, or anything else, Rebecca, that you want me to like double click on.
No, I'm really thankful for those tools, and I love vision and strategy, and I love that it gets to answer the question of where is God taking us. So it's this intertwined with our walk with God, that we get to dream. Like, how wild is that, by the way, that the God of the universe invites us into
The
this
best.
mindset. Like
It's the best.
I've been doing this forever and it still blows my mind. But I think these tools are so helpful to make some of that dreaming and praying and wrestling with the Holy Spirit, and put some concrete kind of structure around it, so that we can faithfully walk into what God's calling us to.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what questions you have, what feels a little mushy still, what would be helpful to you as you're navigating this next season of ministry? Everybody's clear. They're ready to launch
So clear.
straight into it.
I will say, as people are thinking of if they have a question, to like hone in on what you were saying, Rebecca, one of my favorite things, I think maybe you and I even talked about this, is like this ties so closely to the parable of the talents to me, where it's like, oh yeah, God has given me this like ministry, these people, these friendships, these relationships. Like, what a shame it would be to get to the end of my time on earth and be like, it was fine. It was okay. It's really fun to get to play in the space of what might God be doing.
I have a question that may be tricky to answer.
Ooh.
What have you found in your experience when people answer the question of how might you be getting in your own way? What are there common themes that come up that you've seen so that I can help me, if I'm going to look in the mirror, help me
Yeah.
defog the mirror a little bit so I know where to look.
Uh-huh. So I would argue people have 4 survival needs. We have a need to look good. And so that's one way we get in our own way. Like, I'm not going to do that thing because I'll look bad doing it. Another one is to feel good. I'm not going to do that because it is uncomfortable. This one comes up a lot. The stereotypical one is like health related. I was committed to going to the gym 9 times a day, but that's boring, or I'm exhausted, so I want to feel good. So look good, feel good, be right. We can get in our way when we try and be right, because we are so convinced. This is my coaching call earlier this morning. We get so convinced that we have to be right because it's tied to our identity. And then the last one is to be in control. And we have stories that come up that tell us, if I'm not in control of this thing, it won't do what I want it to do. And so I'm going to get in my own way by trying to be in control of whatever's happening. And so there's outliers and exceptions, but like if you were hopping on a call as a client of mine, you're like, I don't know how I'm getting in my own way. I'm like, oh, well, let's explore. Let's start with these 4 survival needs and see what comes up and go from there.
And that's where those conversations are really helpful, because these are blind spots for us.
Yep.
None of us are deliberately like, I just really want to look good. And we're like aware that we're doing these things.
Uh-huh.
So that's where coaches are helpful, asking honest questions about the people that you lead with, the people closest to you, of like, tell me what I need to hear, but I am not necessarily seeing. That's how we start to like get at some of it.
Here's a question for the group. What does it feel like when you're wrong about something? It's a real question. What does it feel like when you're wrong about something?
I mean, it's uncomfortable. It can be like physically uncomfortable too.
Physically uncomfortable? Yeah.
Yeah.
What else?
I just sent a meme to I'm the oldest girl in my family, and I just sent a meme that oldest sisters are always right about everything. So that's
interesting.
That's probably my hang up.
We'll leave that right there. Yeah, uncomfortable. A lot of times there's stories of like shame, like I should have known better. I should have done it differently. And here's the fascinating thing. That is what it feels like to find out that you were wrong. That is not what it feels like to be wrong. Being wrong feels exactly like being right until you find out that you're wrong. And so I am convinced that I am wrong about a ton of things right now, and I just don't know it. And so to Rebecca's point, it's like, I need my coach. That's why I've got a little bit of like palms sweating going into my coaching call with David here in less than 25 minutes now, because I know there are things that I'm wrong about. And until it gets pointed out, I just keep being wrong. So that's the blind spot thing, and how we get in our own way. And if I'm more committed to being right than I am to growth, I get to pick to grow or like pretend that I'm right.
Yeah. Rebecca knows a little bit of my backstory, but I'm in the process of switching churches. And with that has become, boy, an unfogging of the mirror, so to speak. You know, you're looking at the mirror and it's, you know, you're unfogging the mirror. And 2 things I've really been working on this year have my prayer every morning is humble me, O Lord, and make me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think if you want to break down a lot of sin or a lot of things we do as self-sabotage in our life, it's a place of not being humble and a place of not wanting to be uncomfortable. So, and then recently I've added abide to that.
Yeah.
right? Because boy, don't we want to escape that? That would sure be a lot easier. So it's humble me, O Lord, make me uncomfortable and teach me to abide.
That's
And
great.
and he's answering. Darn it, he's answering.
I was gonna say, uh-oh.
And
Yeah.
it's been it's been a very uncomfortable year. It's been a lot of new things. But yeah,
I love that.
it's I go back to that John 15, the pruning the vine. It's been a huge year of pruning.
Mhm.
But we're just starting to see the little buds of the better growth. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I guess that's yeah.
I love that. Our company, we've got 6 core values, and the first one is growth. And we define it by saying the deepest fulfillment in life comes from growth, not comfort.
Mm.
And so there's just not the way the world works. There is rarely growth with comfort. And so you get to choose which level of discomfort that you want to embrace. So that's seasons of defogging can be interesting, and excited for what growth you're co-creating with your
Yeah,
ministries
I think
in that.
as I've gotten older, I feel like the goal in life is to pursue comfortable and become more comfortable with your life, but in that is a trap of being stagnant too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We so our CEO and founder just did a talk in a podcast at North Point. And one of the things he talked about was, there's the 10,000 hour rule, where like it takes 10,000 hours of deep work to get really good at something. But on average, Americans spend 100,000 hours of their life at work. So it's like, what do you do when you're good at what you do? Like, oh, how boring a calling would it be to be like, I'm good at this now, and I'll cruise control for the rest. So, oh, you could. And that creates plenty of issues.
Yeah. There's so much more out there. I love it when
Yeah.
we start saying dangerous prayers like that of make me
Mhm.
uncomfortable and show me, and because God answers them.
Because then he
And then
answers.
we have
Yeah.
uncomfortable years, like you said.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Austin, I'm thankful for your wisdom and your insight in these tools that we really can apply to any dream that God's bringing
Yeah.
about to help us clarify, bring some tangible things to it so that we can communicate it more effectively, think through it. As we wrap up though, I would love to know what's one thing you want to leave people with? What's one takeaway that you want to end our time with?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to play it safe. But I think if God has given us stewardship of a ministry, there is a spiritual responsibility to try and explore what we're capable of, not in a way that stokes our own pride, but in a way that builds the kingdom and impacts the lives of families in our community. And so my invitation would be like, constantly search for how you're getting in your own way. Constantly search for how you can be specific and sober about where you are and where you want to go, and be looking for where the Lord is showing up along the way.
I love that so much. I hope this has been an encouraging time for you all. I hope you're leaving spurred on in your dreaming and your wondering and your in your journey with what God has for you in your ministry. Just a reminder that next month it's going to be a great conversation on supporting our kids who are neurodivergent and creating spaces for them to encounter the love of Jesus. That link is in the chat. I hope you join us then. And then Everyday Ministry is also a link that we hope you can take advantage in training your team. Thank you so much for being here, Austin. Thank you so much for your time and your insight. I hope you all have a great day.